provocation. We repeatedly provoke. The act of provocation is one which is designed to cause a strong emotional response from you. This signals to us that you are coming under our control, or that you are under our control, and of course that you are providing us with fuel. On one level, it can be argued that everything we do is provocative, because we are always looking to cause you to be emotional, to react in an emotional fashion to what we do, and, as a consequence, to give us the fuel that we need. Thus, when we tell you that we have finally found our soulmate, we are provoking you into generating an intense feeling of being loved, or at least conning you into thinking that you are being loved, because as narcissists we are incapable of love. And this causes you to exhibit your love towards us, and therefore you signal that you are under control, and we gain our positive fuel. When we pay a friend a compliment, we do not do so driven by emotional empathy. We have no emotional empathy. We do not do it because that is the decent and honest and polite thing to do, although, of course, a mid-range narcissist thinks that's the reason that he does it. The reason that we pay a friend a compliment is to provoke that person into at least thanking us, thus again signalling a degree of control and providing us with a small dollop of positive fuel. Or, more hopefully, and indeed more likely, because this empathic secondary source is well-mannered, honest and decent, we pay them a compliment, so they will then pay one to us, and thus more fuel is garnered. The lesser narcissist is less likely to compliment, but where he or she does, they do not really think about the reason why they are doing it. They just do. The mid-range narcissist, believing him or herself to be a decent person, will issue a compliment and believe that they are doing so because they're polite and kind and well-mannered. The greater and the ultra recognize that it is being done purely for the purpose of control and gaining fuel. There is no unconditional giving with our kind. We only give to receive, the receipt of your control and your fuel. Accordingly, all of the things that we say and do, the manipulations, the chicanery, the machinations and the mind games, are all inherently designed to provoke you into giving us fuel and signalling that you are under control. However, in its strictest sense, we provoke you in order to generate that intense response, and one which is negative in nature. We provoke you so that you will explode in anger, erupt in a stream of profane insults, and vent your frustration through a slap to the face or a mug hurled towards us. We will push and push and push. Yes, many of you have a remarkable capacity to absorb these pointy sticks which we jab at you. Your kind are well versed and skilled in the turning of the cheek, the adoption of the high ground and the making of allowances. You will bury the hatchet, and we will dig it up again in order to give you a dig. You let bygones be bygones, and we will resurrect the memory of an age-old issue in order to rankle you. You do this because of your empathic trait of the desire to fix and to heal. We do this because of our need to control, and therefore nothing is buried dead with us. We will always dig up the past if it suits our purposes. Nothing is off limits in terms of provoking you. It might be focusing on a vulnerability of yours that we know about, having acquired this information when we seduced you, so that we remind you of a frightening episode from your childhood, or capitalize on your terror of spiders. It might be homing in on your sensitivity about the size of your nose, the shape of your head, the bright red of your embarrassment. If you owe us money, we shall remind you of it and comment on your poor financial position. We may flirt because we know how much you hate the notion of us being unfaithful. We may repeatedly turn up late because you are such an advocate of punctuality. We may criticize your parents, your choice of film, your culinary skills, your attempts to lose weight, Whatever we have identified as a means for causing you to erupt at us, we will do so in order to assert that control over you and, of course, gather fuel from you. We know which buttons to press. With the lesser and mid-range, this is an instinctive response. With the greater and the ultra, sometimes it is from instinct, but more often it's a calculated response, focusing on particular weaknesses and vulnerabilities that we are aware of. We do this because we are able to gather information about you when we seduce you that will be stored away and used against you at a later stage. Do understand that where the lesser and mid-range narcissist behaves in this manner, it is instinctive and unconscious. They do not gather the information and think, I will use that later. That is the behavior of the greater or the ultra. The reason it is used against you is because empathic individuals are far more likely to respond in an emotional fashion, and this is one of the many reasons why we target you as empaths as opposed to normal people or other narcissists. Yes, you will soak it up at first by making allowances for our behaviour, and indeed making excuses, exhibiting this selfless understanding for which you are famed. This will not dissuade us. We know that everybody has a limit of what they can take before they snap. Sometimes it is bursting into tears, running from the room, or screaming. Other times it is exploding with a volley of curses, coming at us with flailing arms, or shouting and screaming at the top of your voice about how awful we are. Push, prod, niggle, aggravate, rile, irritate, ruffle, vex, bug, irk, incense, and annoy. We will chip away at your defences, jabbing and poking as we look to make your blood boil, to get on your nerves, get under your skin, work you into a lather, and try your patience until you can take no more. We can sense the emotion rising in you. We are attuned, because of our narcissism, to recognise this rising fuel. We are observant of the slight tells, the narrowing of the eyes, the rolling of the eyes, the sighs, the shake of the head, the hands on the hips, the raised palm, the jutting jaw, and so on, all indicators that we are getting to you, that we are chipping away, drilling down into that vast reservoir of fuel. The more that you try to tell us that we are not getting to you, the more we are encouraged. We instinctively recognise that the emotion is building up inside of you. We know that it is increasing, and no matter how much you are trying to maintain that cool exterior, we recognise what is building up underneath. We not only have a medley of ways by which we provoke you, but we are experts in choosing precisely the best, or I suppose the worst time, from your point of view, to engage in this behaviour. Do any of the following instances sound familiar to you? These are occasions when we suddenly start provoking you. When you're trying to get ready to go out. When you're trying to have a telephone conversation with somebody else. When you're trying to cook. When you're trying to perform some chore. When you're trying to get to sleep. When you first come through the door after a long day. When you're sat next to us in the car on a long journey. When you're sat across from us in a restaurant. When you're at some event that you have chosen to attend. We will pick an inopportune time to commence our provocation so that you are caught off guard. When you are tired, when you are hungry, when you are anxious or stressed. The moment must be right for us and wholly inappropriate for you, because then it makes it easier to control you and provoke a response. We know what really gets to you. It may be the subject matter. It might be the way of conveying it, for instance, patronising you or acting in a condescending fashion. Who? Me? It could be jabbing you with a finger on the shoulder to punctuate, or words, or giving you a dig in the back as you lie on your side of the bed after each savage sentence. Eventually comes the eruption. You can only take so much, and invariably when this provocation comes, allied with an emotional state which makes you susceptible to our provocations, the explosion is all the more satisfying. Copious amounts of negative fuel fountain from you, as you shout and you scream and you bang doors, you slam your hand on the worktop, swear and so forth. Inside, we are soaring with the power that comes from the provision of this most excellent fuel. where you are the former intimate partner primary source or the current intimate partner primary source, your potency is immense, and negative fuel outranks positive fuel. And therefore, with you being proximate to us and exploding like this, it is a fuel fest. You, the paragon of virtue, the most patient of saints, has been brought to boiling point, and we achieved it. You have responded, demonstrating that we have control over you. Our superiority in our world is once again affirmed. We are the puppet masters. We are omnipotent in our actions, and you have responded as we wanted. Such marvellous fuel that sprays from you, and we relish every job. Of course, as it fountains and flows from you, we will not want it to stop, and so the provocation will continue. Not only are we ensuring that we get to bathe in your overflowing fuel, we are using this eruption as evidence of how unhinged you are. Do not be surprised if this niggling, poking provocation occurs where others will see it. You can expect the whispered and insidious provocations to be used, the acts which are open to interpretation, although we both full well know exactly what was meant by our remark, where you're dealing with a greater, and of course, where mid-range or lesser, the narcissism underneath fully knows what it was doing, even though the narcissist has been kept in the dark. However, should you protest that we've done this on purpose, our good friend, the first line of the narcissistic twin lines of defense, denial, will be utilized, and thereafter, if necessary, various forms of plausible deniability. Who? Me, officer? I did nothing. She just exploded. I get this all the time. She's got an anger management problem. John here will confirm she just went mental and started hitting me. Cue the obliging member of the coterie to back us up. I don't know what gets into her, Dad. She just erupts. You saw what she was like at Mum's birthday party. This is what I have to live with. I feel sorry for you, Mrs. Johnson, having a daughter with a temper like that. Those instances, you're being triangulated. We are utilising the facade against you, and we are in effect smearing you, triangulating you to the other individual, and their response, favourable to us and against you, enables us to feel that we have control over you. We will provoke you. We will draw the delicious fuel that you will provide to us, and then we will use this eruption against you as evidence of your unhinged mind, nasty temperament, and unbalanced mental state. Provocation is a mainstay of our behaviour. It comes in many forms. It is used in many different ways on a range of occasions, but its effects are always the same. 1. The provision of a massive dose of negative fuel from the relevant source. 2. The assertion of control over you. 3. The reinforcement of our image of superiority, lack of accountability, and omnipotence, which all go to control. 4. The creation of an emotional state in you which hampers your ability to think clearly and logically, thus aiding our control over you. 5. The creation of a situation where you can later be made to feel guilty for erupting the way that you have at us, lends itself again to fuel and the provision of control. 6. The manufacturing of a scenario which is used to reinforce our facade. We were calm and bewildered by this outburst. Triangulation. And again assists with control. 7. The manufacturing of a scenario which is used to smear you to third parties. Again, the assertion of control. Provocation is a very useful manipulation for us. It is used extensively and repeatedly. It is important for you to understand why it is being used, how it is being used, and how your reaction plays into our hands. This reinforces the need for no contact, because attempting to grey rock us whilst we are provoking you means you will fail. Grey rock does not work. Do not try to outlast it. Do not try to outlast our provocation and exert your capability for patience, tolerance, and understanding. You're just making us try harder. Remove yourself before your threshold is reached to avoid giving us points 1 to 7, which I have just mentioned. Provocation will always be used against you. Anyway, who do you think you're looking at?